and welcome to Dr. G's Technique of the Week, Geometry Edition.
Today we're going to be going over the formulas for finding the volume and surface area of rectangular prisms and then practicing with them a little bit. So first we're going to consider this rectangular prism here, whose length and width of its base are 3 meters and 5 meters and whose height is 6 meters. So let's start with volume. Remember that to find the volume of a prism, we need to find the area of the base and multiply it by the height. So for a rectangular prism, the area of the base is just length times width, in this case 3 meters times 5 meters, and then times the height. Length times width times height for our volume. So take a moment now and try and find the volume of this particular rectangular prism. Let's go through it together. We can just put our dimensions from this rectangular prism into our volume formula, length times width times height. So 3 meters times 5 meters times 6 meters. 3 times 5 times 6 gives us 90. And meters times meters times meters gives us meters cubed or cubic meters. So our volume is going to be 90 cubic meters. Now for surface area, we need to find the area of all 6 faces of this rectangular prism and add them together. So if we consider the bottom and top faces as it's oriented right now, those are the same size. So we're going to have 2 faces whose areas are length times width. And then we'll also have 2 faces, this one here on the right and the one behind to the left, whose areas are length times height, or in this case 5 times 6. And we'll have 2 faces, front left and back right, whose areas are width times height. An easier way arithmetically to evaluate this can be to factor out a 2 from each term using the distributive property and just find length times width plus length times height plus width times height, and then multiply by 2 just once. So use this formula now. Try and find the surface area of this rectangular prism. All right, let's go through those calculations. So in this case, our length and width are 3 meters and 5 meters. Our length and height will be 5 meters times 6 meters. And our width and height will then be 3 meters times 6 meters. Three times 5 gives us 15. 5 times 6 gives us 30. 3 times 6 gives us 18. And here, and each of these pieces have units of meters times meters or meters squared. So this gives us 2 times 63, or 126 square meters for our surface area. So hopefully that's what you got as well. If it's not, go back through your work and see if you can find your mistake. So I've decided that I want to make a copy of those metal monoliths that have been popping up everywhere in fall and winter of 2020. And I want to put one somewhere on a street in Washington, D.C. But I'm a little bit broke, so there's no way that I'm actually going to build this thing out of metal. Instead, my plan is to build a monolith out of cement and then cover it with adhesive silver foil.
So, I need to know two things in order to get my supplies. I need to know how many cubic feet of cement I will need to build my monolith, and I'll need to know how many square feet of foil I'll need to cover it. I want my final monolith to have these dimensions: 2 feet by 2 feet around and 8 feet tall, and it'll be a perfect rectangular prism. So take some time, work on your paper, find me how many cubic feet of cement I'm going to need to build this monolith, and find me how many square feet of foil I'll need to cover the entire outside of my monolith, including the bottom that will be against the ground, just in case if somebody knocks it over, I guess it'll still look like it's made out of metal. Now it's time for you to get some practice with these new ideas. See you next time on Dr. G's Technique of the Week.